Ryan has been making extra payments on his mortgage every single month for 6 years. $200 extra in January, $300 in March when the bonus hit, an extra full payment every December without fail. His neighbors think he is disciplined. His parents think he is smart. His financial advisor smiled and nodded when he told her. And Ryan feels genuinely proud every time he logs into his mortgage account and watches that principal balance drop faster than scheduled. He is doing everything right. He is building security. He is eliminating debt. He is being responsible in the most textbook definition of the word. What Ryan does not know, what nobody has ever sat down and shown him with actual numbers, is that those extra payments have quietly cost him somewhere between $190,000 and $240,000 in lost wealth over the life of his mortgage. Not because he did something wrong, because he optimized beautifully for the wrong goal. Let's keep this fair. Ryan and David bought identical houses on the same street in the same year. Same price, $320,000. Same down payment, 20%. Same mortgage, $256,000 at 6.8% interest over 30 years. Same monthly payment, $1,672. Same income, same neighborhood, same starting point. The only difference is what they do with the extra $300 a month Ryan puts toward his mortgage principal. Ryan sends it to the bank. David sends it somewhere else entirely. And what happens over the next 30 years between these two men on the same street with the same house will make you look at your own mortgage statement very differently. In the first year, Ryan makes his extra payments faithfully. He reduces his principal faster. His amortization schedule shortens. The bank's interest calculation drops slightly each month because his balance is lower. He can feel the progress. He opens his mortgage app and watches the payoff date move from 2054 to 2053 to eventually somewhere around 2049. He is going to pay off his house 5 years early, maybe 6. That feels incredible. That feels like freedom. What Ryan is not tracking is the actual cost of that freedom in dollar terms, because nobody ever shows you that number. The bank certainly does not show you that number. David takes his extra $300 every month and puts it into a total market index fund. He sets up the automatic transfer the same day his mortgage payment clears. He does not think about it again. He does not check it obsessively. He does not feel the same satisfaction Ryan feels because there is no app that shows him a payoff date moving closer. There is just a brokerage account with a number that goes up slowly, then faster, then in a way that starts to feel almost unreasonable. Here is the mathematics that changes everything. Ryan's mortgage interest rate is 6.8%. Every extra dollar he puts toward his principal saves him 6.8 cents in interest per year. That is his guaranteed return on those extra payments. 6.8%. Locked in. Certain. Completely predictable. David's index fund has returned an average of 10.1% annually over the last 50 years across multiple market cycles, recessions, crashes, recoveries, and everything in between. Not every year, some years negative 30%, some years positive 40%, but averaged across time 10.1%. The gap between 6.8% and 10.1% sounds small. It is 3.3 percentage points. But applied to $300 a month over 30 years, that 3.3 percentage point gap compounds into something that will genuinely stop you mid-sentence when you see the number. Ryan's extra $300 a month toward his mortgage principal over 30 years saves him approximately $89,000 in total interest payments. That is real money. That is not nothing. He pays off his house roughly 6 years early, eliminates his monthly payment sooner, and owns his home outright by age 56 instead of 62. That feels like an enormous win, and in isolation it is. But isolation is exactly where the mortgage payoff argument always lives, because the moment you put it next to the alternative, the picture changes completely. David's $300 a month into a total market index fund at an average 10.1% annual return over 30 years grows to approximately $679,000, not $89,000 in saved interest, $679,000 in actual accumulated wealth. The difference between Ryan's outcome and David's outcome on the same $300 is approximately $590,000. Over a lifetime of wealth building, that gap does not just matter, it's the difference between retiring comfortably and retiring with genuine financial freedom. It's the difference between leaving something behind and starting from zero all over again. But here's where Ryan's argument gets stronger and David's gets more complicated, because this conversation is never as clean as a spreadsheet makes it look. Ryan owns his home outright 6 years early. Those 6 years of no mortgage payment represents roughly $120,000 in cash flow that returns to his life. He can invest that. He can travel. He can work less. He has a tangible, physical, fully owned asset that no market crash can touch. In 2008, when David's index fund dropped 37% in a single year, Ryan's house was still there, still his, still a roof over his head regardless of what the market did. There is a psychological dimension to owning your home outright that doesn't show up in any compound interest calculator, and it is not irrational to value it. And David's path is not without real risk. A 30-year average of 10.1% contains years like 2000, 2001, 2002, 3 consecutive years of market losses. It contains 2008, where a disciplined investor watching $400,000 become $250,000 in 12 months needed extraordinary emotional fortitude to stay invested. Most people don't have that fortitude. Most people sell at exactly the wrong moment and buy back in after the recovery has already happened. If David is not genuinely the kind of person who can watch his portfolio drop 40% in a year without feeling anything, his theoretical 10.1% average becomes something much lower in practice, because human behavior keeps getting in the way of mathematical outcomes. So the real question is not mortgage payoff versus investing. The real question is, what is your actual after-tax return on each option? Because Ryan's 6.8% mortgage interest savings are guaranteed and tax-free in the sense that he is not paying taxes on money he saves. David's 10.1% index fund returns are subject to capital gains tax when he sells, typically 15% for most middle-income investors, which brings David's effective after-tax long-term return down to approximately 8.5 to 9% in realistic terms. The gap narrows, it does not close. David still wins mathematically over 30 years, but the gap is 8.7% versus 6.8%. And when you factor in that Ryan's guaranteed 6.8% return requires zero emotional management, zero market timing risk, and zero behavioral discipline beyond writing one extra check a month, the argument for paying off the mortgage early becomes considerably more reasonable than the index fund crowd wants to admit. Here's what nobody tells you about the mortgage payoff strategy. The real cost is not the interest you save versus the returns you miss. The real cost is liquidity. When Ryan puts $300 extra into his mortgage every month for 20 years, that money is locked inside his house. He cannot access it without refinancing, taking out a home equity line, or selling. The equity he has built is real wealth on paper, but it is completely illiquid in practice. If Ryan loses his job in year 18 of aggressive mortgage payoff, he has a house with enormous equity and potentially no cash. He could have hundreds of thousands of dollars in home equity and still miss his mortgage payment because equity does not pay bills. Cash pays bills. Index fund balances with a sell button pay bills. Home equity without a willing lender does not pay bills on a Tuesday when the electricity needs to stay on. David's wealth is liquid. Not perfectly liquid, there are tax implications to selling, but functionally liquid. In a genuine emergency, David can access his investment account within days. That liquidity has real value that the mortgage payoff calculation almost never accounts for, and it's worth more than most people realize until the moment they desperately need it and don't have it. There is a third path that almost nobody takes, and it's almost certainly the mathematically and psychologically optimal one. Max your 401k match first, because that's an instant 50 to 100% return that neither mortgage payoff nor index fund investing can compete with. Build your 3 to 6 month emergency fund in treasury bills so the liquidity problem never becomes a crisis. Then take whatever is left, the $300, the $500, whatever your number is, and split it. Half goes to extra mortgage payments, half goes to index fund investing. You get meaningful progress toward owning your home outright. You get meaningful compounding in the market. You reduce your liquidity risk. You reduce your market timing risk. You reduce your psychological risk of watching a large investment balance crater in a correction. And you end up at 60 with a paid-off home and a substantial investment portfolio, instead of one or the other. Ryan is not wrong to pay off his mortgage early. David is not reckless to invest instead. What they are both wrong about is treating this as a binary choice with one obviously correct answer that applies to every person in every situation, regardless of their income stability, their risk tolerance, their tax bracket, their timeline, their emotional relationship with debt, and their actual liquidity needs. The personal finance industry loves clean answers because clean answers get clicks and sell books. Pay off all debt is a clean answer. Always invest instead of paying debt is a clean answer. The actual answer is a spreadsheet with your specific numbers, your specific tax situation, your specific job security, and your specific ability to watch your net worth drop 40% in a year without making a decision you will spend a decade regretting. Ryan logs into his mortgage app tonight and feels proud. David checks his brokerage account and feels something between confidence and anxiety depending on what the market did this week. They are both building wealth. They are both being responsible. The only thing either of them is missing is the full picture of what the other one is doing and why it is not as wrong as it looks from where they're standing. And the next time someone tells you to pay off your mortgage as fast as possible or never pay extra on a low-interest mortgage, always